Hypnosis Business Success Zone. All right, so I think it's a good idea to explain to the client what an emotion means, your definition of an emotion. These are my definitions, they're not the ultimate definitions, okay? They're just my definitions. All right, now as we said before, you only need to explain each emotion when you're actually up to removing that emotion. Do not overwhelm them with information. So in the second session, you would talk about what anger means. Now in my mind, this is what anger means. So you've already said that it's a protective emotion and it sits in front of all the other emotions as a wall. And we need to get rid of anger to get to the real emotions that are underneath. When do we feel angry? We feel angry when our values have been contravened. So values, we all have values. What are our values? What are they? What's a value?
Respect.
Respect, so that's important to you. Honesty, that's important to you. It may not be important to everybody. So what are our values? Some people might value family. Some people might value fun. I know that I value fun. So it's important for me to have fun. If I wasn't having fun this retreat, I would not be here. Seriously. Pardon? Exactly. The things that are important to you in your worldview. So what's important to you? So if people come up against our values and they contravene our values, that is a recipe for becoming angry. Okay? So that's what I say about anger. It's as simple as that. You can say something else. The next emotion that sits directly underneath anger is sadness. And that's what you'll find when you remove anger. Sitting directly underneath anger is sadness. So for sadness, I tend to talk to clients about the fact that we all have our own filtering system. It's impossible for each of us to absorb all the information that's hitting us at all times of the day. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. It's impossible because we can't see, feel, smell everything that's going on around us. So we have this filtering system. What does the filtering system do? Exactly. It distorts, deletes, and generalizes. So it deletes information that we're not interested in. So that's why when you walked in the room here, maybe some of you did not see the popcorn station over there in the back of the room. Who saw it? Who saw the popcorn station? So for those of you that like sweets, you saw the popcorn station. For the rest of you, you didn't. Okay? So you deleted that information. It was of no interest to you. Others generalize. So you might generalize that that is the outside part of the room, but you may not have seen that there were tables and chairs out there. You've just put it into one bit of information. But the most important thing that we do is we distort. We distort information based on our own experiences, based on our own events, based on the value system that we've been brought up with. So how do we distort information? We perhaps have heard someone say something, and that's triggered off a response that might be negative because it's something that we experienced previously, even though that person may not have had that information. So that's why, if there is something like a car accident, you could have 10 witnesses, but you might have 10 different versions of that story. Who's right, who's wrong? There's no right or wrong. It's just perception. And perception is reality. Your perception is reality. So what is sadness? Sadness is your perception of an event. That's all it is. If we think about the ultimate form of sadness, this is what I say to my clients, something like death is the ultimate, isn't it? Would you say that would be the ultimate?
Yeah.
People respond in a different way. Some people feel if someone has died that's close in their family, they would say, well, my life's over. It's not worth living. But other people might take that as an opportunity to celebrate that person's life. Other people might create a legacy in honour of that person. Or other people might think, that they're transitioning to the next life now and they were meant to go. I'll never forget one of my lecturers who is highly spiritual. his twin brother died at a very young age, in his 40s, and he had no emotional response. Because he goes, yeah, I know what he's doing. He had to go. He had things he had to do. Because he's a spirit guide himself. So for him, it wasn't an emotional, sad time in his life. So sadness is just the way that we interpret an event. It's our interpretation of an event. That's my opinion. Again, doesn't mean it's right or wrong. Next emotion is depression. So like I said before, so all these emotions that I'm going through now, apart from depression and shame, everybody has experienced them in their formative years, 0 to 7 years. Everybody has. 0 to 7 years. Not everybody has experienced shame. Not everybody has experienced depression. So we're up to depression, which is an optional emotion. Okay? So depression usually comes on later on. It's not usually something that occurs in your formative years. There's always exceptions to everything. But usually it comes on later on. I find that with my clients, early adulthood, adolescence to early adulthood is a common thread in terms of when it actually happens. So what's the difference between depression and sadness? This is the difference in my mind. With sadness, we all feel sad at times, but we know it's going to come to an end. We know that we're going to end up feeling better. With depression, and this is speaking from experience, we actually do not know that. It's a feeling of helplessness, hopelessness, and a feeling of being stuck. You're stuck. There's no way out. There's nowhere to go. It's all black. It's not going to get better. So there's a big difference there between the emotion, and I do call it an emotion and not a mental illness. The emotion of depression and the emotion of sadness. Clients know when they're feeling depressed. They know that. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about it later. They know the difference between depression and sadness. They know. That's
ask them that question. How do you know they're depressed?
well, when they use words like devastated, those kind of words, you will see that, and you say during the first session, were you depressed at the time? And they will say that they were depressed. But if you need to differentiate it, the key difference between sadness and depression is with sadness, you know you're going to feel better. You just know you will. That there will be a time when you will get over it. You do not know that for depression. In fact, you're convinced of the opposite. You can't see the light.
With clients with sadness, do they often talk about loneliness in there as well, or is that something different?
Well, yeah, but what emotion do you feel if you're lonely? So what emotion do you
Which
feel?
is what I think is sadness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might feel sad or you might feel something else, I don't know. So the next emotion is fear. So with fear, like all our emotions, they're trying to tell us something. They're giving us a very powerful message. They're trying to tell us something. They're there for a reason. And this is what I explain to my clients, is that we have outer senses and inner senses. Our outer senses, we always take notice of that, which is what we can see, hear and feel and touch. They're our outer senses, and we listen to our outer senses, but we're not listening to our inner senses. Our inner senses are our emotions. We need to listen to our inner senses because they're giving us a message of some sort. What's the message? So what's the fear message? We need a message of fear because we need to be prepared that something's about to happen. So we need to be prepared for that, and that's why we have a fear response. But it's the overuse or the misuse of fear that we're talking about here. Because fear is very powerful and very useful. We need to be afraid. But it's the overuse or the misuse of fear. Okay, hurt. Hurt is an emotion that I talk about quite a bit in my book, Mindset Dominance. Okay? And the emotion of hurt again goes back to value system. So if I expect you, Mike, to live up to my values, I'm setting myself up for hurt. So hurt is about the expectation of how others should behave. They're my values. Now, this is a really important point. I learned this over 20 years ago with my first experience of hypnotherapy under a clinical psychologist, Don Treacher, and I credit him in my book. He's the one who first opened my eyes in all these concepts. And it's one thing to learn it, but it's another thing to live it. And I explain this when I talk to my clients about the emotion of hurt. So, hurt, when you expect other people to live up to your values, they're called claims. You are making a claim. When you're making a claim, that's toxic. It's very toxic. So I expect you to do something just because I don't. Example could be, you're in a group of friends, and I'm the one that always organises my catch-ups. This is actually true, I am. I have various groups of friends and I organise the catch-ups. Why do I organise it? I gain enormous pleasure from catching up with my friends. Now, if I was to sit there and think, well, why doesn't Chris organise the catch-ups? It's always me. Well, that's my value system. Her value system is to just turn up. She's not an organiser. She just likes turning up. Does she still love me? Yes, she does. Do I love her? Yes, I do. Do I get benefit out of it? Yes, I do. Then do it. So many people get caught up about what people should do. So every time you hear the word should, it's a claim. Why should they? Another example might be my eldest sister, Kathy. Every year my parents go to Cyprus for the last 26 years. That's where they originate from. And they go every single year, and so Kathy is the one that picks them up from the airport because she wants to do that. That's great. But she'll still complain that others won't do it. It's her value system. So, it's always me. But don't you want to, Kathy? Yeah, of course I'm going to be the one that picks them up. But she just wants somebody else to offer, to put the invitation out there. It's a claim. So this is what I say to my clients with hurt. You either do something with all your heart or you don't do it at all. So Nessa and Belinda have consistently given their time up to come here to help me with their heart, from their heart. If they felt compelled to just because, they did it before, should they do it again? Don't do it. Don't come.
That's funny. They said they came for their stomachs. Oh, sorry. No.
So that's what I'm saying. Rather than saying yes to something because you think you should, say no. Or do it but expect nothing back. But really expect nothing back. Yeah. Really and truly expect nothing back. You won't get hurt when you expect nothing back. Do it from your heart, 100%, or don't do it at all. Say no. And that's what I talk about with hurt at the beginning of the hurt session. And like I said, it's one thing to understand it from a logic point of view. It's another thing to live it. When I let go of claims in my life, it was liberating. And then you start to notice everybody makes claims. Conversations, you start to hear of what people should do, especially Christmas time. Whew, about what people should do, how people should behave, who people should visit, what gifts people should buy, how much they should spend. Oh, God, claims everywhere. So start to notice when people say should, because that's a claim and it's toxic. But when you really let go of it, it's liberating. It's just liberating. When you don't expect anything, you don't expect anything back. You just give from your heart. So that is hurt. And I do talk about it in Mindset Dominance. Okay, next emotion, guilt. So guilt is all about actions. So actions that we've taken that we have guilt about. And thank goodness that we have the emotion of guilt. Why? Why is it a good thing? It keeps us in check with our own value system. So there is a percentage of the population, about 1%, that are psychopaths that actually have no guilt. That part of their brain is missing. They don't have any remorse. You see them when they've gone and killed people and with a big smile on their face, they have zero remorse. So it's a good thing to experience guilt because we have to then ask ourselves, is this okay with me? And if it's not okay with me, let's not do it again, but just let go of the guilt. But don't do it again. How is guilt different to shame? Shame is about who we are, not what we do. So shame is about who we are. I have done this and therefore I am. I had a client who called herself in the first session a whore. So I have done this and therefore I'm a whore. So you can feel guilty about an action, but to take it on as this is who I am because of that action, that's shame. How do you know if someone's ashamed? You pick it up with the words they use in the first session. If they use words like embarrassed, humiliated, ashamed, that's shame. Embarrassed, humiliated, ashamed. Usually what I have found with people that have shame, on their sheet there's a lot of shame. And then others there's none. Okay, so it's an optional emotion. Anxiety we're going to be talking about quite a bit tomorrow, so I'm not even going to talk about it today. Okay, see you later.